So my name is Esme Rogers Evans, and I'm the founder of a company called Duxford Studios. So I make bespoke and handmade jewellery for romantics and sentimentals so that they can commemorate a special occasion with quality contemporary heirlooms that are often personal to the wearer. So the business came about just through a kind of organic kind of journey based on my background. So I have a background in fine art sculpture, and I used to make huge kind of immersive pieces of work with light and sound and scent and all sorts of things. But obviously I went traveling, and when you travel you can't really cart around huge pieces of artwork. So I decided to go from the massive to the tiny and start working with jewelry, because I've always worn jewelry and it's always kind of interested me. So I did a short 9-week course, and I just absolutely fell in love. I learned the basics in New Zealand on this 9-week course. And when I moved to Vietnam, I just decided I had to find a way to continue. So I bought some jeweler's wax, and I got to Vietnam and bought a couple of nail manicure tools and just taught myself how to carve. And I was just loving the stuff that I was making. I was constantly getting really nice comments from people. Oh, where did you get that? So when I moved home, I just thought it's an absolute no-brainer. Why shouldn't I kind of capitalize on my skills and use my skills in my everyday life to make, to put food on the table. So I have my kind of like main collections, but the thing I'm really passionate about in my business, which I want to grow, is that I do bespoke pieces of jewelry. So one of the things that I first did was, while I was in Vietnam, I made my brother's wedding ring. So him and his now wife, they have this walk that they love doing in Tumbarlum, and so I found the route that they walk, and I plotted it across the kind of band of the ring like a peak. So the peak across his ring is basically like where they would walk across the mountain. And he hated jewelry, and it just completely changed his mind, and he's just never taken it off. And it's just such a pleasure to be able to do something so personal for people. So yeah, that's how it came about, really. It's nice to kind of like get someone to fall in love with something when they were really reluctant to start with, because obviously he needed a wedding ring and he just hates jewelry and didn't see himself wearing jewelry, but he's never taken it off now. And I think that's why I always try and kind of like present myself as making modern heirlooms, because I do make things that I hate fast fashion. I do make things that I want people to wear forever. I want it to be something that, granddad used to wear one day, I think deep down, I always knew I wanted a business, or I wanted to work for myself. And I just didn't really know what that would look like. I think when I was at uni making huge sculptures, they're not very marketable. They're incredibly expensive because there's so much materials and it takes so much time. I think I kind of like conservatively priced at my final piece of work at university, and it was like $8,000. And one person might want to buy that, and that wasn't me paying myself loads of money. It was like basic wage. And so I think I was kind of frustrated with my art practice at uni, because I don't know, I think naturally I am quite business minded, and I do think about things like that. And it was just difficult to see how I was going to make that work, because I had to work on one thing for such a long time, and it was so specific. Whereas with this, I see myself as making conceptual pieces of artwork. I make tiny wearable art, but it is marketable, and it is something that can be something that's personal to me or something that's personal to someone else. And it kind of has that duality. So I think just starting that short jewelry course, I was like, I couldn't sleep after every single session. And it was like only 3 hours for 9 weeks, like one day a week. But in that time, every single night I would come home, not be able to sleep, because I just couldn't wait. What else can I make? What else can I make? And I think that was the first glimmer of me thinking, right, this is something, I've struck on something here. Like it completely kind of feeds my creative needs. It's marketable. I can make it a business out of it. I can do it every day. Like, I think that was the point where I was like, right, now's the moment. I found my thing. In my industry with jewelry, especially working with precious metals, there is just something so magical about just extracting a precious metal out of the earth and then turning it into something functional. And also, you know, that's kind of like the romantic side of me, but everyone needs jewelry, and lots of people love jewelry, and I think jewelry often represents the most important parts of people's lives. Like, people will always get jewelry at 21st birthdays, 18th birthdays, graduations, I mean, weddings. The whole, it's just a chance to be a part of really important parts of people's lives. And already I've kind of like given people the joy and made a kind of special occasion even more special because of the jewelry and that commemorative element for me. I mean, obviously it's a huge industry with so much potential, and sky's the limit really as well. So, you know, I feel like I can grow as much as I want to grow into my business and into my industry, which is also nice. There's no kind of ceiling, which is great. But I think it's just, yeah, it's just sharing those moments with people and making those commemorative pieces really special for people. It just never gets old. I mean, I kind of think that I get a good work-life balance, but I'm definitely not an expert. I currently work full-time to be able to support the startup of my business, because obviously my overheads are quite high, precious metals are very expensive, and stones and different things. So I have a very, very busy lifestyle, and it does kind of get on top of me sometimes. But I think having a structured schedule is really, really important. And I don't know what the technical term is. I think it's time boxing, but just kind of having periods of your day that whether it's, you need to know how long you can work for before you start to get kind of agitated. And for me, my work times are quite short, but if I set myself an hour and it's like, right, marketing on Instagram, then just for that hour I'll put everything else away. I won't look at my phone, I won't look at anything. I will only have the tools that I need to design my posts on Instagram, or to do whatever I need to do, and to, you know, think of my next marketing plan for the next month, or whatever it is that's like next on that list. I have lists. Oh, you don't know how many lists I have. It's just, but I just get that one list in front of me and I just focus on that. And that really gives me a chance to just beat the overwhelm, because you know, if you're starting a business on your own, you have to do everything yourself. You're the CEO, you're the designer, you're the marketing manager, you're the PR person, you're the lackey, you're the cleaner. It's never ending. So I think just being really structured and having one thing at a time to focus on is great. And also just allowing yourself time to unwind. Like, I definitely struggle with switching off, and I constantly have this feeling of guilt if I'm not doing the next thing that I need to do. But I think that time boxing thing really helps with just schedule in time to unwind. And when you unwind, do it. Don't do anything else. Don't focus on anything else. Put those lists away, put Trello away, or whatever sort of organizational tools you use, and just get on with unwinding and just do it. Spend some time with people. But sometimes it doesn't work, but that's my kind of, that's what I try and do. I think my inspiration comes from, well, I mean, my debut collection is inspired by Memento Mori, which is the, you know, the kind of idea that everything must die, which sounds like really morbid, and everyone kind of looks at me horrified when I say that. But I feel like that's the sort of fire in my belly to get me going, because life is short, and I kind of like the idea that it's a real leveler for the world. Like, everyone goes through that dying process together, so it makes us all pretty equal, and we all have the same opportunity to seize it or to let it pass through our fingers. And yeah, I just think life is this thing that you kind of have to seize it or not. There's a little bit of time, a blip in the existence of the universe, really. And there's just something about that idea that just makes me get up every morning and do it, and, you know, clock off from work and carry on with the business. And yeah, it's just, it's hard to explain, because it is kind of just like a part of my being, really. And that sounds really woolly, but yeah, I think that the idea that we have this certain amount of time on earth, and you make something of it or you don't. And it's kind of comforting as well, because it's such a huge place. If you mess it up, it doesn't really matter. You're not going to hurt anyone. So you just got to try and keep trying, and yeah, just plug away, really. So I was told about the Welsh ICE program through a colleague at the college I work at. And it just seemed I was sort of going it alone and doing my own research. And I felt like I kind of had focus, but not really. And I think it's, especially when you're a sole trader and you're doing things on your own, it's kind of hard to build a community around yourself if you don't reach out. So I think that initially I was just looking for a bit of focus and a bit of reassurance. And I definitely got that on the program. They're just such amazing, kind of supportive people. But also I was quite surprised at how much of the knowledge I already had. So it was kind of a reassuring process to go through, to be like, oh yeah, I know about that. Oh, I don't need to ask about that. So that was quite good. And I think as well, I did want to just plug into a bit of a network. You know, I don't come from a business background. I come from an art background. So it was important for me at that point to kind of, yeah, reach out and see what other people were doing. And, you know, it ended up being an amazing experience purely because there were so many people doing interesting things, and it was just, we were learning from each other as much as we were learning from the kind of people who were giving the sessions. So yeah, it was just a great thing to do at that time. It was perfect, really. I think it's really important to have a sort of business ecosystem within a country like Wales, because we are a small country, but we do have such a unique identity. When you look at kind of like the global market, I think there's a lot that we can provide to the rest of the world. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is if we kind of pool resources and work together to kind of gain that visibility worldwide. So, you know, I kind of went to Welsh school and I spoke Welsh, and, you know, being Welsh is a huge part of my identity, which is a, you know, a massive reason for why I returned to Wales. And it is lonely being a sole trader. It's lonely doing things on your own, and there's no need to, you know, I could probably get support from, you know, a business advisor online in the US or, you know, whatever, but they're not going to understand where I'm coming from, my corner of the world, and what my reference points are. So I think it's really important to sort of, yeah, to have that locally, because I'm going to have more in common with, you know, people in Caerphilly at Welsh Ice, or people in, you know, Be the Spark. They're going to understand where I come from and what my sort of struggles and kind of passions are more. So I think that's really, I think it just makes Wales much stronger on the global stage. So I think, yeah, it's just, we have to do it like that. I think the reason I moved back to Wales and started a business in Wales was because I was away for such a long time. I went to university in Bath School of Art and Design, and then I lived in Bristol for a while. And then I decided to travel, and I went kind of all over the globe for a few years. And it just made me just understand what I was missing. You know, there's amazing places in the world, and I could have started a jewelry business in Vietnam, and that probably would have been financially beneficial because labor costs are low, and I could have kept things really simple. But I'm from here, and I love it here. I love the mountains, and I love, you know, the sea, and I love my parents, and I have friends here, and my roots are here. And I think especially because I went to Welsh school and I was so encouraged to do kind of creative subjects. I was, you know, interested in drama and art and singing and all sorts of stuff. And I was always really, really encouraged to do that. And I think that is a real benefit of Welsh language education. And it just made me who I am. I just feel like this is my home. I'm just at home here. And I kind of, in a weird way, feel like I owe Wales something, because I did grow here, and I did become myself here. And it's just, yeah, it's just, I love it. It's just brilliant. I think one of the biggest challenges has been sort of trying to mold my creativity with a world that I have no kind of understanding of. You know, I don't come from a business environment. My parents kind of, not they weren't business minded, but they were just creatives, and that's why I'm a creative. So it's been a real challenge to understand how to mold the two together in a way that I'm comfortable with, and not compromise on my kind of on my creative identity too much, because obviously you have to make something viable and it has to be scalable as a business, but at the same time there are just some lines I won't cross from my creative point of view. Also, and it's a challenge that I still face. I think I've touched on it before, but managing working full time to get the business going, and that balance. Often I go for weeks without really socializing with people because something's, you know, I have a deadline to meet or something, and I just don't have the time to do any of the relaxing or the seeing people and socializing. So I think it's hard to start a business when you want to do it all on your own and you want to do it responsibly. You know, I'm growing my business slowly so that it is long lasting, but it is hard to do everything at the same time and be committed to work and be committed to my baby and not let go of my creative integrity. So it's a constant battle between all of the different parts, but I wouldn't really have it any other way. It's the only way I know how to do things, and I'll just plug away at it. It'll stick eventually. Oh, goodness me, where do you start? I think I'm currently listening to an audiobook called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, and it was a piece of advice from my friend Kyla, who just said, you need to read or listen to this book because it's just amazing. And in that book, so that's one piece of advice, but in the book, Elizabeth Gilbert just talks about never stop turning up, just never stop doing. You just have to do every day. Even if you just do one thing every day, you'll get there. And it doesn't have to be a huge thing that, you know, contributes to your income. It can just be something that makes you feel good. You've just got to turn up and do it every day. Make something every day or do something every day. And I think it sounds like a hilariously simple thing, but I think it's something that we often forget to do. You just got to turn up and just do it. Right, well, on the horizon, for me and Duxford Studios, in the kind of boring part is I just need to get my stock on the website, because due to coronavirus, the cast is closed down, the Hallmark is closed down, everything's opening up again now. So I need to just get that stock on the site. But during lockdown, I've been experimenting with a new process, which is powder coating. It sounds like this kind of like crazy thing, but actually it's just the way that it's like an industrial process for painting cars or bikes, like bicycles or whatever. And I managed to get in touch with a powder coater that's given me some colors, and it's just going to be a really exciting way for me to inject a bit more color into a new collection. So I'm just in the kind of designing phase now and just playing phase, really, which is one of the funnest points of the whole process. So yeah, look out for new colorful pieces of work in the upcoming future. And I've also been approached by a couple of different online communities, one of which I'm really excited about is Boo, which is Cardiff-based online platform. And they're just kind of trying to build the profile of creatives and business owners in Cardiff and Wales. So I really want to kind of get in touch with that community. And there's another one, Seeked. So I'm just kind of going to plug into a couple of different online communities that really champion handmade, ethically sourced, kind of creative wares and different things. So yeah, a couple of different things coming up, really. So give me a follow on Instagram, and if you're ever in the need for a bespoke piece of jewellery, maybe a partner's birthday or Christmas, or you're getting married and you want some kind of individual wedding bands made, just get in touch with me, give me a follow on Instagram, and then just slide into my DMs and I'll sort you out.